Hello, my name is Grace Simpson, and this is my capstone project. For my capstone project and my public issue assignment, I decided to choose drunk driving. I think drunk driving is a huge issue in Omaha and all around the United States. I believe there needs to be changes in our legal system and society so less accidents and deaths occur every year. Within the last few years, I know many people who have lost their lives due to drunk driving or others who have drunk driven before. I've always believed that you should never drive drunk and that people need to think twice before getting behind the wheel. And so, to begin with, effective communicator related to drunk driving, my first experience was when I was working at a daycare freshman year. We had an infant who was not content in our room. We just tried everything. He was never seemed happy. And so I was closer with the mom. And so I effectively communicated with her to find ways to make sure he was happy during the day. And because of this, we learned that he liked being around older adults and we were able to move him to the next room up. And because of that, he was much happier and content while at daycare. I learned that you need to actively communicate with others in order to find a solution to a problem. And I can apply that to addressing my issue of drunk driving because I can use what I learned by actively communicating with people in our community on ways to address the issue of drunk driving and brainstorm to come up with ideas to decrease the incidence of this occurring in Omaha and surrounding areas. And so, my second experience for effective communication, I was able to volunteer at Head Start this past summer for clinical, and our role was to educate the children coming in for their physicals on a topic we chose. And so, we chose hand washing and just staying healthy in general. And we wanted to find a way to teach these children so they would understand. We had a flyer and everything, but children just learned so differently. And so we got paint and we put it all over their hands and told them that the paint represented germs. And so we had a song for them to sing for 20 seconds and got a bucket of water with soap and basically had them wash their hands and wash off all the germs and paint off their hands. Because of this, I learned from this experience that in order to communicate effectively with someone, you need to understand how they learn and communicate with others. And so I can use what I learned from this experience to address my issue. Because when educating others on the topics of drunk driving, I can find ways to actively teach them so it is not something they forget about right after the conversation. I want people to want to make a difference in our community based off this topic. So I can find ways to make my teaching interesting to family and friends and people in the community so they want to make a difference too. All right, so now on to reflective individual related to drunk driving. With this experience, my cousin is a nurse practitioner. She worked as an RN at Mayo in Phoenix, and then she actually volunteered at a small family clinic that was for people who couldn't afford healthcare. And so she volunteered her time on the weekends to help these families. And so most of the people, almost all the people didn't speak English. They spoke Spanish. Because of this, we had an interpreter with us in every room to communicate with the parents and the patients. My cousin maintained eye contact with the patient the whole time and only looked at the patient and never talked to the interpreter. This showed me how communication barriers looked like in real life and learning about it in class. So this experience helped me learn about being a reflective individual because it changed the way I thought about communication barriers. I never thought about the importance of them and how you'll still need to remind the patient that they are your main focus. Having seen this in the real world made me understand it so much better. And so I can use what I learned about being a reflective individual to address my issue because people with communication barriers do not get the same resources and education as us on drunk driving. They may have different beliefs on the issue based on where they have lived before. And so to address drunk driving, they need to have resources for different language groups who may not know the risks of drunk driving. And so, my second experience for a reflective individual that I'm going to talk about is an assignment I did in my Capstone class this semester. It was about voter suppression, and I had never known about voter suppression except for what we learned about in history class in high school and like middle school. And so, if I were asked if there was voter suppression in the 2020 election before my assignment, I would have said no way. To answer to my full knowledge. Because of this, I conducted my own research for this assignment on voter suppression and was able to find multiple resources that showed evidence of the voter suppression still going on in our country. There are multiple examples of how people are not getting full opportunities to vote in the election, which could have dramatically affected the results. This assignment not only taught me more on the subject, but opened my eyes to the struggles we still face as a country. And so I was able to learn and change my views on voter suppression because I have become a stronger, reflective individual. I was able to integrate learning from a variety of disciplines and encounter new ideas from this. And then through critical thinking, I learned about a social issue we are still facing in this generation. And I was able to become aware of it without judgment or pushing any bias to it. And so I can use what I learned about being a reflective individual to address drunk driving because I learned how important it is to do research before elections. I need to learn what election officials are doing for the issue of drunk driving and how they will address the issue to the public. The officials should be making it a priority to address drunk driving and new interventions to decrease the incidence. And so, on to change agent related to drunk driving. My first experience was in junior year in my healthcare collaboration and leadership class. In this class, we did a lot of self surveys on leadership, learning styles, and communication styles. And one of these surveys was on our personal biases. And before this quiz, I didn't think I had any biases. I was like, oh, I think everyone is the same. Never had biases in my life. But through this survey, I found out I did have biases, and it was on genders and gender roles. Um, I think I never realized I had these biases because they were taught to me at a young age without even knowing it was happening. Had always been taught that men were stronger, smarter, and throughout my life, it was just normal to think that. Um, because of this quiz, it showed me that I had these biases, and I learned that I need to change this way of thinking as our lives are becoming different and more accepting. And so I was able to learn my biases. I learned how important it is to identify any hidden biases you may have. This creates a clean slate for your opinions, and now I'm able to be unbiased with anyone I come in contact with. This was easy for me to make changes because there are several resources out there on how to get rid of any hidden biases you may have. And I learned through this experience that everyone is their own person and no one should create assumptions on them based on biases you may have. And so I can use what I learned to address my issue of drunk driving because I can use my knowledge on biases to address my issue because many people hold biases on drunk drivers or those who experience a crash with the drunk drivers. And so holding biases and judgment could decrease the incident. So being unbiased can be beneficial to teaching them and providing resources for them so the incident does not occur again. And so the last experience for change agent happened 2 semesters ago. We went to the Open Door Mission in Council Bluffs with the mobile diabetes truck, and we were taking blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, a bunch of basic blood tests. And so while I was there, I was able to meet a lot of individuals and educate them on the steps to live a healthier life. A lot of the people didn't even know they had high blood pressure or blood sugar, and there was a lot of education we gave while we were at the Open Door Mission, along with hearing the stories of the men and women who came there every day. And so in order for the mobile diabetes truck to actually come, we had to assess information and resources around the area. And because of this, we found out that individuals were in need of help and education from us. And we developed cultural competence in these people's lives so we are able to treat them equally and with respect as well. And so I learned a lot during my experience at the Open Door mission. I was able to understand and analyze the lives of those going to the Open Door mission and create a difference by doing basic assessments and blood tests on them. Because of this, we are able to provide information and resources to these individuals on how to get treatment for things like diabetes, high cholesterol, or hypertension. And then because of this experience, I never had an experience where I worked with homeless people or individuals who may not have a home to go to. I gained a lot of sympathy for these people and grew to understand that sometimes the situation they're in is not their fault. I feel really good about the change we made to their lives with the education and resources given to them. And then I can use what I learned about being a change agent to address drunk driving because you never know the background of people you come into contact with. Providing education and resources on drunk driving should be given to everyone. Like I learned in my experience, the circumstances that surround someone may not be their fault, so it is important to address the victims or bystanders of drunk driving and not just the people responsible for it. And so, to conclude, drunk driving is responsible for thousands of deaths a year. Through real life experiences, I've learned ways to address issues in the future. Drunk driving is an issue that needs to be addressed now, and initiatives need to occur. And then I just hope you enjoyed hearing about my experiences and the importance of ending drunk driving.